Season around in the right direction. Welcome to
Match Night!
Right here on One Soccer. Thrilled to have you aboard. It's Wheeler, it's Wilson, it's KJ, and a special guest this week. Former Burnley, Sheffield United, Newcastle, Whitecaps, Forge, and a guy that I put on my, top 4 athletes in Kitchener-Waterloo history, alongside Lennox Lewis, Howie Meeker, and Jamal Murray. It is the one, the only David Edgar.
Wow,
how's that?
Go. Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
And I should say, assistant coach with Forge FC.
That'll do.
So thanks for joining us here tonight.
No, it's a pleasure.
Eddie's going to hang around with us. We'll get more into what's going on in Eddie's life these days. But of course, as always, the O Canada O Baby segment of the show, the best and worst of the week, and of course, our Canadian Premier League wrap-up. And here is the scores as they played out this week in the Canadian Premier League. David Edgar's Forge FC 3-0 victors over their local rival in York United. Another 1-1 draw for Cavalry. They had the exact same record as they had through 8 games last season. 1 win, 6 draws, and just a loss. Atlético Ottawa, a little bit of history made as they come away with a 2-2 draw, come from behind against Halifax. And the match you just watched, Valor 2, Vancouver 0. Look at that. So it's Atlético Ottawa, the 5-point cushion atop the table. Forge and Halifax still have a game in hand, but Halifax in the cellar with a 5-point gap now between them and Valor. And let's get into the game that we just watched. In terms of Valor 2, Vancouver FC 0. The question was whether Valor could maintain their form over the last couple of weeks, where they came away with a win and a loss after just a really difficult time, having their first 8 games in all competitions away from home as a new surface was laid in Princess Auto Stadium. Jordy Swivel with the brace in a winning effort for Valor. I mean, this is what the doctor ordered, KJ, for Valor. This is exactly what they needed. Build some confidence ahead of what's going to be a home-heavy schedule here on out.
Yeah, we talked about it in the pre-game show in terms of they've shown life the last couple of games, but even in the ones where they didn't get points, we've watched them pretty closely. I've said all along, they had 5 leads inside 7 games. They were, they gave Forge a really tough game at Tim Hortons Field. They obviously gave Cavalry a tough game as well before that last week with Sanchez's goal. And for me, Jordan, they look like a team full of confidence coming in, which is what we didn't expect 2 weeks ago when we thought this storyline was heading in the wrong direction. So great that they're able to do that. They took advantage of a couple of key mistakes from Vancouver, but overall, I think it was more than they deserved.
Yeah, and a cheeky finish from Swivel there. I think he was outstanding tonight. But also for me, what stands out is the players that they have back. I think Phil DeSantos gambled on certain players and built this team a certain way by having Murtakudas back or Alcon, just changed the whole complexion of this team. And now you can see that they're bought in and they're building from that point. So a win today was crucial for them to put them in a position where they can compete, and they did just that.
It was almost a turning point for all the wrong reasons for Valor. When they ended up losing to you guys, Eddie, 2-1, it was a late goal that Valor conceded. Then they went on to lose 7-0 in the Canadian Premier League. Then all of a sudden the pressure mounts on the manager, on the team, but they've been able to stable the ship here in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's not easy as well starting the season away from home, right? 7 games away from home, you're away from your family, your routine, and whatnot. So they've done okay, and obviously that past couple of weeks this will set them in good stead.
Scored first in 5 of their first 8 games, KJ. Yeah. I mean, that's a recipe for success in this league. For Vancouver, really quickly, I feel Moses Dyer's a significant miss for this team. Just weren't at their best here today.
Yeah, and I like them. I like that they go forward, but I think for me, we questioned in the beginning of the season, or at least I'm questioning now, is just the depth of the Vancouver side. What I mean by that is 13, 14, 15. Are you coming off the bench and really impacting the game? They have a strong 11, but throughout the course of the season, we all know this by watching or playing, is that you need an army of 18, 19 that are ready to play.
Yeah, a little bit of missed opportunity, KJ.
Yeah, the thing for me about Vancouver is I still feel the same as I did at the start of the season, is that with the ball, I think they're really dangerous. I think they can score with the best of the teams in the CPL. Defensively, they're still, I think, much like at the end of last season, they're giving away some silly goals. Rocco Romeo's a big part of that team. He's been injured. I know that's a big factor. But you know yourself, you get that back sorted out, and then with Diaz and Dyer, if you could say we got one today, guys, we could win this. If you're a defender.
Yeah, 100%. And as Jordan touched on it, it's a long season, right? So the players will have to come and go. There'll be injuries, but yeah, it's a confidence thing, and I'm sure they'll get back to winning ways.
Up next for Valor, I mean, no easy path in the Canadian Premier League. At home to Atlético Ottawa, then at home to Pacific. So a difficult run, but that's life in the Canadian Premier League. A record-setting performance this afternoon as Atlético Ottawa ended up drawing Halifax Wanderers 2-2 at home. They came from behind from 2 goals down in this game. Diego Coimbra was sent off late, putting all kinds of pressure on Halifax to attempt to win their first win of the year. Zapateur with the goal in the 101st minute, his 4th of the season, giving Ottawa the draw in this game. They've now gone 8 straight games without a loss to start a Canadian Premier League season. That betters the 2019 version of Cavalry and 2023's Forge for the longest streak without a loss in league history, KJ.
Yeah, very impressive. They just keep finding ways. I always was a bit concerned about them in this game because ultimately you go out west and you play a cup game on a Wednesday night. You have to get back on that plane, spend the entire day Thursday traveling all the way back, connect, go back to your city. Meanwhile, the team that you're playing is just training and watching you all week. And then you've got one day to prepare, and then suddenly you're in match day -1, you're doing a walk around, and then you're in the game. And it showed. Halifax were out of the gate, faster, ready for it. They played, I thought, a lot of really impressive part of the game. But again, it's that type of things that are just not going well for Halifax at the moment. They go up 2-0, then they make a silly mistake by getting the 2 red cards for throwing your shirt off and kicking the ball. They lose Nimick, who's probably their best player, and suddenly they're just not able to have Dan Nimick in the box when the ball comes in to head it out with Zapateur and find a way. So you got one team right now, it's going all well for them, and one team it's just not going well at all. And I thought Patrice was a pretty positive press conference afterwards, but Jordan, that's tough for them to get to see 2 points that's disappeared like that.
I mean, I just played the other day, 2 years retired, but you always have to ask the question when you tie, did you gain a point or did you lose 2?
Yeah.
And I feel like looking at the match, the way Halifax played, it was glimpses of a Halifax that we fell in love with last season in terms of free-flowing, finding pockets, playing the ball forward. But then they're winning 2-0 in 75th minute. If you just leave it there, you're like, there's enough in that match to come away with 3 points. And Eddie, you know, and you've probably been on the end of certain matches where you felt like you should have won. Like for me, Halifax, it kind of gave away 2 points today.
Yeah, and I think I'll put my coach's hat on a little bit here. I think the sending off has killed them a little bit, right? It comes at a time, again, you're 2-0 up. Something like that happens, something silly, innocuous, and again, it feels like you've thrown away 2 points.
Yeah, it's how, and especially when you're searching for your first win, you're trying to dig yourself out of a hole. Yeah. I mean, taking your shirt off and celebrating that way on a tap-in is just completely unnecessary.
But also, to be fair, no, go ahead.
No, then the second sending off still is just like little things that you cannot make mistakes like that when you're in the position that Halifax find themselves in. And the better teams in this league don't make mistakes like that, straight up.
Agreed. I also will say to Coimbra and players that play a certain way, which is aggressive, and I like that. But also maybe that get cheap yellow cards. And I was a player that got them, so I'm going to say this. You can't have silly yellow cards, so don't take off your shirt. Yeah. Don't put yourself in a position where you could easily get a second yellow. For me, I never really talked to referees. There wasn't a time in my career where I'm getting a yellow for talking to referees, because I would give a yellow for kicking a guy or stepping on someone. So I don't put myself in a position to go and talk or take off your shirt, because that's a dumb yellow to receive.
If you're a goal scorer and you score a goal, never let anything else other than the goal be the story.
Thank you, KJ. Yeah. Well said.
Yeah, just for Halifax, it's still not time to panic. They didn't win their first game till June 10th last year. Now, they drew 6 of those games, the 2 draws this time around.
Played well today.
Yeah, and there are some signs there, so all is not lost. Forge beat York United 3-0. A couple gaffes, great goal again by Tristan Borges as the Forge machine just continues to roll on. Here's the way that things looked, but another convincing performance by your side against your rival. You've done it to York a couple times now this season, David.
Yeah, it's been good for us there against York. The boys did well yesterday. We got the early goal here, a bit of a gift for us. But yeah, it was a professional job, and got the 3 points.
How do you feel about like Kwesi Poku? I know you had to play a different spot, Eddie, but for me, even on that play there, like just making that deep run, what does he offer to your squad?
Well, like you say, he offers those runs in depth. I think he's got the pace, the athleticism to play up there, and again, he can link play up here like he did for this goal here.
Yeah, I was at the game, and we can go down this Forge team right now, right? Becker gets the goal. Poku's playing as the 9. He's playing great. Para's playing great again. Schwanyer's in great form. But Tristan Borges is unquestionably the best player in the Canadian Premier League right now. And he's involved in everything. You know, and you just know when you've got that run of player right now, and he scored that goal. It's a goal out of nothing, by the way. And, you know, I don't think Borges last year would have even taken that on. He wasn't that kind of confidence, but that's 2019 Borges. A goal out of nothing where he can just curl it around a good goalkeeper. It must be a joy to see him buzzing in training every day.
Yeah, again, and he's doing that in training. He's doing that time after time in training. He's working extra on it. It's not that he lost the hunger. Tristan, he struggled with injuries. So, yeah, it's fantastic to have him back on a personal note and someone who I actually played with him. So
yeah, it's one of those. That's exactly what it says, KJ. Like, this is 2019 Tristan Borges, but this Forge side might be better than that 2019 side that you were part of, or even the 2021 team that was so good and ended up losing the final to Pacific. What could this team be even better? Like, I don't see weaknesses at all in this team.
I'm going to answer this, but I'm so curious to hear from their assistant coach. I mean, I think maybe the area that the 2021 team might have over this 2024 team is the attacking options. Like, I remember a time looking at the team, you had the Mo Babuli, you had Omari Brown. Like, you had guys that were like, even as a player, I was like, yeah. Did I have nightmares? No, but I couldn't even really catch all of them. It's like, who do you tackle on the day, right? Like, who do you say, oh, this is a guy you really want to get stuck into in the first 5-10 minutes? They had options, but I do like how methodical, yeah, Bobby Smirnionis and your forward side is this year.
Yeah, definitely, and I think we've touched on it before. We've always picked up those players, those mavericks who can score from and do something out of nothing. We've always had those, but we've also had a team who knows the style of play, knows the philosophy, knows where to be, and knows their roles. So it doesn't matter if a Kwesi Poku has to go play up front or he has to play left back next week, right? They can slot in because the work's done on the training field day in, day out.
What a player. Finally, last but certainly not least, it was a good week for Pacific, advancing in the Canadian Championship, then picking up a point shortly after against a well-rested Cavalry side. It's a 1-1 final, but it's Cavalry who are the real story here, KJ. Just one win on the season. They actually have the exact same 1-6-1 record as they did at this point last year.
Yeah, they do, but I do think that they will not be thinking the way that they thought last year. And I know they were concerned last year. They always felt like they had a run in them, and I know that this team's got a run in them. I'm just not sure if their ceiling is quite as high as we saw last year at the moment. Now, Musi and Akio are huge misses. You know, they came back into this game because of the changes Tommy Wheeldon Jr. made, and also because the Pacific played midweek. We saw it again in Ottawa today. You know, they ran out of gas, right? They found a way to get the impact on the field. So Cavalry got some work to do. My biggest takeaway from that game, though, is how hard Pacific are working without the ball. There was times in the first half where Cavalry would get the ball, play it back, and just couldn't get through. And this Pacific team are changing in front of our eyes their identity of who they are. They were swashbuckling, attacking football, and now they need to figure out how to win games by 1 goal. And they didn't get that second, and it cost them yesterday. But the work rate without the ball is very impressive. They're very difficult to play through.
It was incredible about Cavalry. After that start last season, they went 15-1-4 the rest of the way. Yeah. So we'll see if they can replicate that wild start to the season. So just how different are Forge from the side we saw last season? We're going to go to the big board next with KJ and Eddie as they'll break it down for you and I, right here on Match Night on One Soccer.
Power doesn't sound like it used to. The all-electric ID4 with instant acceleration. Electric feels good. Volkswagen.
ultimate mouth-watering moments is brought to you by the big, bold, ultimate taste of Ultimate Chicken Hot Dogs. Only from Maple Lodge Farms.
In 5 years, we'll be doing this, but in Japan.
In 5 years, my family will be joining me.
I'll be living in the city.
Not living in the city.
In 5 years, I'll be king of the court.
I'll be playing for Canada.
I'll be playing for Canada.
In 5 years? Where won't I be in 5 years?
That way. Okay.
Round of the Canadian Championship picks up second week of July. It's Pacific and the Vancouver Whitecaps and Forge and Toronto FC, a couple of local derbies. Looking forward to seeing what the away support looks like. You watch both games, tell us Canadian Championship right here on One Soccer. This week's big story, well, we're heading over to the big board with KJ and David Edgar as they break down Forge's early performances, which have been outstanding, but they're winning in a little bit of a different way. KJ, take it away.
Thank you, Gareth, Christian Jack, David Edgar. One of the many reasons why I travel up and down this country to go to Canadian Premier League games to see them live is to learn from guys like this. And now we've got him here to break down plays as well. And we were there both yesterday at Tim Hortons Field as Forge again dismantled York United. The final score 3-0. I want to talk about specifically this goal, and we're going to talk about a few places. We all go in together here today with the professor himself, Mr. Edgar. So let's play it through. I want to highlight a few things here in this particular goal as we go through it. Now, what I want to talk about here as we're going to pause it is these two men down here. We're just going to back that up for me a little bit if we can. I just want to pause it a little bit earlier than that. We'll play it through. First of all, we'll see the goal, and you can see that Para scores the goal. It's a brilliant goal, David. But when we go back, what did you think of it? What did you think about this?
Well, you've got, obviously, what we knew about York wanting to compress the pitch on either side.
Yeah, we'll pause it here. Yep.
So the one thing we touched on before is that we didn't have last year enough of was these runs in depth, these runs in behind for us, right? Which, again, we touched, Kwesi's got that in his locker, but now we're getting them from Borges and from Benny on the wings. And
yeah, just back it up a little bit for us guys, if we can, just a little bit. I think what you want to do here is we want to talk about these two guys in the corner here, like Chouanier and Borges, right? Getting in behind and getting in here.
100%. And the space is created by this run from David. So David coming short, receiving in here, and then having the knowledge to just play that one time because he knows the space is already created for Borges and behind.
Yeah, so when you play it, now Borges is the winger, Chouanier's inside almost as the 8. He plays it through. And then those of us who love the left foots, you got left foot, and then left foot, and Para's been immense for you.
He's been fantastic. And again, that one there is that opposite winger, that width we create, right?
Yes. Let's pause it here again. Now, this is a game that we were at. It was a lot colder than recently, back in February. And then this is the team we're going to talk about here, Chivas Guadalajara. And this is essentially a team that has been, I think, one of the major reasons why you guys are flying right now, because they gave you that heads-up start, right? Yeah. You had to be on it against this Liga MX team. And this is a team that presses with 5. We're going to keep it there. But 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and their high press. Talk to us a little bit about that and how you get into this space behind.
So we knew from watching them beforehand, they almost split in 2, right? They've got somewhat aging back 4. So they tended to stay.
So they're way out of here. They're deep, yes.
And we knew if we could drag them in, that the 2 center midfielders would come and create this gap for us to come and receive in the middle of the park.
Okay, so receiving in the middle of the park. So let's highlight Hajabapur. So he's playing as a 6 in that area. Yeah. So you're telling me when the ball goes in this area, he's already thinking, how do I get here?
Yeah, you can see him here.
Play it through.
I think he almost has a quick look over his left shoulder to see, but he knows, we've worked on this, that when he receives this, they've shifted the entire pitch, and this will be open.
So that moment, it's all about speed of thought and quickly getting in.
Correct.
And it's a great ball by Borges. 2024 Borges before we even knew he existed.
Yeah, and then there you've just got obviously two fantastic pieces of skill.
Yeah, so that's another example from the back playing forward, and this is another one I want to highlight. This is against York recently. We play it through there. We pause it in this moment. Now, what I want to highlight here is Para, who we've already talked about, and over here, Badi Banga. This is different now. This is a different look from you at this moment. But also, if you're a defender and you're playing for York at this moment, let's highlight these 2 centre-backs here, 1, 2. The run that's happening here to pull them, how big is that to allow Para to take that space?
It's massive, because with Daniel bringing the fullback out here, it's created this massive gap in the wide areas. So as a center back myself, knowing I did not want to be in those positions, right? So when you start getting dragged out here and creating massive gaps, it's a knock-on effect for the rest of the back four.
So talk us through, as we play it, what you see from Para and then Baddy Banga involved out wide.
Okay, so Para knows that he's going to have this pass down the wing into Borges, or into David. David just sets it and goes, and again, fantastic ball. But Borges knows as he turns, he's going to have support coming from the wide area.
Right, and Baddy Banga's there to put it in. And he was the one on the wide area already, just bringing that width, right? So it was very difficult to defend.
Yeah, 100%. And that comes from discipline as well in the positions.
This is another goal earlier this season that I want to highlight again, and this is a young centre-back, as we're going to pause it there. This is Matusla, who you've worked very closely with. And in this moment against Valor, what's the next key, and how has he improved to get beyond the forward press?
I just think a lot of the work we've done with Garv, I think it's easy for a centre-back to turn out and go back to the goalkeeper there.
Right.
Whereas if I believe it's Swibble there, just pressing him, knowing that if he takes a step past him, he's beat him. Right. So, and then the space is here to move forward.
So he takes the step. I'll give you another pause to talk about that. So play it through. He takes the step beyond the striker, and now he's in, right? And now, let's look about aforementioned Para again out here, right? So how important now is that? And also, talk to me a little bit about what Baddy Banga does here in bringing his defender.
Similar to what Chouanier did on the other side with Borges. He knows, Daniel Para knows that as soon as Benny comes short for the ball and he drags the centre back in, Samake here, the space is behind.
Right.
So the right decision needs to be made by the player on the ball, right?
Okay.
And Garvin makes the right decision there just to spin it in behind.
Because a lot of times fans don't see this, right? When they come back. I'm going to talk to you about that in a second. I've got a clip for you in Montreal game. But when players come, they're not necessarily just coming to show for the ball.
100%.
Right.
100%.
Play it through and we'll see what happens next as Para goes beyond. And then at this point, we've got Borges again in crucial areas.
Yeah, and you've got your centre back tracking to where he probably would have been defending.
Right.
Benny's dragged him out.
Right, so it's all about dragging out, and you can see, okay, this is what brings me perfectly to this. Now everyone knows you guys got the win. This is the big historic win for CPL this season, getting to the semi-final, beating CF Montreal over 2 legs. There's a couple of areas I want to pause here in particular. Now, when Montreal put that press on early in the game, talk to me a little bit about these two guys in this box. This is Becker and Ajabrapor in central midfield. Why is it important that they go back here?
Similar to the Chivas team, right? We knew that Montreal would split in 2. The 2 center midfielders would go with our 2. So if we drop them back, we could almost split them and create that big, massive gap in the middle of the park.
Okay.
As you see here as it rolls on.
Play it through. That's exactly what happens. Watch those 2 as they go back. Pause it there for me. Now you've got them, no? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They press. And now this is all down to the goalkeeper and Duncan.
100%. And Duncan knows, and in an ideal world, we might want him a little bit higher to receive, but to have a goalkeeper of Chris's caliber on the ball right now and playing these passes, it helps us out massively.
So this is isn't even, they never even on the ball.
No.
But this creates the goal.
Yeah.
Right.
It's about dragging these midfielders in to create the space behind them.
So play it through and we'll see what happens for those of you who haven't seen it. And at this moment, it's so crucial to see. Para is now the left back, is now taking up that role that you'd normally expect these 2 to take, right? And he ends up scoring the goal. Yeah, so play it through. Para's in central midfield, and now he shows for the ball, but now you've got them, right? Now it's almost a 5v5 at that point, and then Para's centrally.
Again, and if you pause it here, Para making that run again creates that bit of uncertainty here from the centre back, right? Or what do I do? Do I go? And then again, he loses them.
Play it through. And you can see Para in that area to take the advantage of it and score a goal, or from that one area. That's what they do really well, Forge, and you can see defensively they're set up really well as well in this game. I've highlighted this one clip that I want to talk about defensively, because at this moment of the game, it was tense, and it was 2-1, and the CF Montreal putting the pressure on them. But what do you like about this clip in particular defensively, as we're going to look to pause it, but defensively, how hard you guys are working without the ball?
Yeah, if you just pause it here, the compactness of the group, right?
Right.
Again, an ideal world when the ball goes back, we want to get a couple yards here, but I know it's getting a little bit late in a tough game. So, but the boys work their socks off here and in moving, shifting, but not leaving big gaps to be played through.
Right. So let's see what happens. Play it through here, and I want to highlight specifically the center, the left side defender. So in this moment, we've got your team here. You've got Para, who's out of position, and then you've got your other back 4 there. Then you've got your midfield 4, and that's how compact they are. Now, in this moment, at 77-14, you're coaching this team, no danger, no? What are you thinking?
No, you pause it here, I'm happy. But obviously, there's a lot of context that goes into the game, right? If you roll it on, what foot is this player?
What can he do next?
What can he do with the ball?
And is this a little bit, no disrespect to the CPL, but a different quality in the MLS that can move a little bit quicker?
I think so. I think it's the speed of quality, the speed of movement. It's not necessarily a fantastic ball by any means, but the movement, the counter movement does us a little bit.
But he's got you in the back.
Correct.
Last thing I want to ask you about is, just go back to me 1 second on that pause, if you don't mind. Last thing I want to ask you about is this. Now, you've done this many times. You played the top level English Premier League against the best strikers in the world. But in this position here, defensively, you can see the danger, no? And at what point does Owolabi Bellew have to just adjust his run to take that path of the striker who's coming forward to ensure that there's a stoppage there?
For me, he has to do it as soon as possible because he knows that Alex is finished here. He's not in the play.
So he's put his hand up. He understands that he's onside, and now it's basically a one-on-one with a player that is behind his peripheral vision.
Yeah, correct. He's got to get across, and he's got to know that his fullback or whoever else was behind him is going to get across, and then you sacrifice the far man.
And he's done a great job of it, working under your tutelage. Play it through, and you can see for everybody else at home what happens next as we play through the clip. It stops it there at a crucial moment in the game, and after that, you get through to the semi-final. Thank you very much, Mr. Edgar. That was great. Professor Edgar, see, at the board? We learned everything together. Back to you, Wheels.
Nice one. The big man at the big board. It was meant to be. One Soccer today, Mondays and Thursdays, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on One Soccer. Your best of the week is coming up next here on Match Night on One Soccer.
Hey, so Mom's thing's coming up. Should we book flights?
Let's do it.
We could go a day early.
Or the later one?
With over 500 flights daily, we have a flight for that.
Power doesn't sound like it used to. The all-electric ID4 with instant acceleration. Electric feels good. Volkswagen.
Tony Bet. At Tony Bet, get treated like a VIP. Bet on live games with odds on all sorts of sports. That's what you get when you bet with Tony Bet. Bet.
Time now for our best and worst segment. Wheeler and Wilson back with you. Straight from the big board, it's Eddie, it's KJ. They break down the tactical stuff. We bring out the just bad.
I like
just
it.
the really bad. And in terms of bad goals conceded, you have to see this from midweek in Major League Soccer. It's Chicago Fire, it's Orlando City. Count the mistakes here. I love your assessment here of the defending, David Edgar. Look at this, like, clown college stuff. Players running into one another. I can't believe this. There's a block, and he can clear it. Instead, he misses it, and the ball goes in the back of the net.
You didn't hear him.
Oh, no.
David Edgar's pure oh, no. Like, oh, no. There was a couple of them. Clear the ball.
Just get rid of it.
Toe poke it, knee it, slide anything. Clear the ball.
That's a miss. And look at how Torres went and celebrated the goal like it was the goal of his life. Can you believe that?
That looks like a little bit like 1980s footy.
That's funny you said. We said Timbits.
Yeah,
like
Timbits.
Like U4 football, where everyone's just swinging.
Yeah, that's true.
There's no like mud.
Everyone just runs after the ball, basically.
Yes,
yeah.
and circled it. Wow. Yeah, I saw that the other night in the neighborhood. Eamon Salouf was unbelievable in the Canadian Championship. Him and Josh Hurd for Pacific on Wednesday. But this moment, as much as I like really good goals scored, I like really bad misses. And right here, Salouf, wide. Oh, no. If Pacific hadn't gone on to win it. And the worst part about this was, like, whether it was his pride or his back, he came off right after injuries. No, he did play on the weekend.
This one, this is the angle.
That's
a tough one. He's feeling it.
He was so good, honestly. Like, other than that moment, he played an unbelievable 55 minutes in that game. We love dogs. Eddie, do you have a dog?
2 cats now.
Two cats.
Yeah, cat guy.
Cat guy as well.
Yeah,
sorry to hear that, boys. The dog's over.
I'm a dog, right?
I'm a dog guy. Dog shows at CPL games are like the new thing. And it was Dogapalooza at Tim Hortons. Hey. Look at these dogs. KJ said there was one, the fastest dog he's ever seen.
This is it.
Apparently his name is Dogovan Bailey. He is quick. Look at the golden retriever. You can't bring a puppy golden retriever out there and think there's going to be any semblance of organization.
I was at this event, I'm just going to call it an event, yesterday, and at halftime, for 15 minutes, they had like a kids game, another one, the warm-up, the sub was going on from one team and the other, and they had this chaotic dog race where they had a 3-race relay. I don't know how they got it all on, but props to the organizational team at Tim Hortons Field.
I didn't notice what happens at halftime.
You guys are plotting your tactics, but I'm telling you, it was amazing to watch.
So if you're a Canadian Premier League team that wants to host a dog show, it will make this show each and every week.
Every week.
Congratulations to Pachuca, winners of the Champions Cup, I believe for the 6th time already. Incredible 3-0 victory over Columbus Crew, although the Crew have complained about having the stomach flu, like the entire team heading into this one. Been there, done that before?
Been there, done that. You got to know that that's coming regardless when you go down there.
Solomon Rondon, he played a year for Newcastle, scored 2 goals. This club just continues to produce, KJ.
Yeah, I watched this game and it wasn't close. I was unaware of the flu. The Columbus flu with the Crew. But every credit, former CPL Mo Farsi, went from the Canadian Premier League to that. Big weekend for the Champions League, Real Madrid as well. Every credit that they got it done again. And I have to say, one of my favorite footballers of all time, Toni Kroos, played his final club game. I go back to 2009 when I covered the Under-21 European Championships, and I was scouting him and I was watching him, and he didn't get picked for Germany in that tournament. I always want to tell anyone, this guy's going to be amazing. In the end, he went to 2010 World Cup, and then for some reason, Bayern Munich let this guy go. And what a career he's had. And he delivers the corner, just like he did in 2014 with the set piece for Hummels' header in France in that quarterfinal game. And he delivers the big corner for Carvajal. An absolute, the legend footballer goes around, gets thrown around too much, but an absolute legend in Toni Kroos.
He's not done, he has the Euros to come.
I know, last club game though.
Yeah. Remember David Moyes didn't want him at United?
I don't remember that.
That is the worst of the decade. Let's call it that. Canada, baby coming up next. A couple big fixtures upcoming this week for the Canadian men's national team. We'll break it all down next here on Match Night.
Canadian soccer fans, we're different. We cheer on the Reds while cheering out our motherlands and each other's lands. Soccer is in our hearts. Our roots are on display. Not to divide, but to unite. Because to us, soccer's more than just a game. It's who we are. From coast to coast to coast, it connects us all. Cheers to us. Cheers to the game.
This ultimate mouth-watering moment is brought to you by the big, bold, ultimate taste of Ultimate Chicken Hot Dogs. Only from Maple Lodge Farms.
In 5 years, we'll be doing this, but in Japan.
In 5 years, my family will be joining me.
I'll be living in the city.
Not living in the city.
In 5 years, I'll be king of the court.
I'll be playing for Canada.
I'll be playing for Canada.
In 5 years? Where won't I be in 5 years?
Gatorade, with electrolytes to help replenish what's lost in sweat, carbs to help fuel your working muscles, and fluids to help you hydrate. Scientifically formulated so you never stop competing.
I do this for my town, my time, my time. None of you people can tell me to stop.
Rehydrate, replenish, refuel. Gatorade.
Degree, 72-hour non-stop protection. Antiperspirant with motion sense. Tested to the limit. Degree, keeps working when others stop.
This is O Canada, O Baby, presented by CIBC. A big week for Canada is coming up Thursday against the Netherlands, Sunday against France. Both matches right here on One Soccer. Wheeler, Wilson, KJ, and David Edgar, 42 Canada caps, by the way.
Come on.
3 or 4 goals? 4 goals?
4 goals, I think.
I'll give you 4. Round up.
Take 4.
What do you make as a former national team player, kind of the ups and downs since really the World Cup for this men's national team? And now with Jesse Marsch at the helm, just in terms of where the national team is at right now.
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, those are some fixtures I would have enjoyed playing in. Finally we got it settled. I think that's the main thing, and I think for the group, I know if I was a player in that group, that's kind of what you want, some stability, someone steering the ship, what's going on, what's going to be our philosophy, how are we going to play, and we've got a big couple of years coming up, right? Obviously a massive summer coming up, so yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing where things go with this group.
Yeah, it's hard to tell right now, Eddie, because I mean, you played for the national team at a time I didn't think you guys played anywhere near enough games. But this national team has played 4 games since last July.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of hard to know where they're at right now, especially with Marsch coming and taking over and trying to instill his philosophy.
100%. And I think with a group like this, you are almost kind of lucky. It's that golden generation where you can just, especially our attacking players, can go and say, listen, go express yourselves. Against some of the best teams in the world, I think we're more than capable of doing that.
Netherlands, France, they're preparing for the Euro and they're playing Canada. Just a comparison between the new world football in terms of where our national team is at compared to the teams that Canada will be up against. The coach, the captain. I mean, that guy Kylian Mbappe, pretty good top scorer. Look at the World Cup wins. 30, 39, and 0. And of course, France has won a couple World Cups of their own. What do you expect from Canada this window, KJ?
Well, I mean, I think it's fascinating, first of all, that Canada is able to go out and get these teams. You know, it's not quite unprecedented, but it's pretty close. And I think it's a terrific start to what is a new cycle. I don't think this team, the way that they're built right now, and it is a new cycle, if you ever to write the full chapter of this men's national team, this would be a new chapter. I don't think it is ready to start a new chapter with some lower seeds to start padding the stats and to get the confidence and get Jesse Marsch's win record up. We're beyond that. That's what the last window was for. That's what the last chapter was for. So, look, I think they're going to be really difficult games. You know, I mean, we're going to look at some scores and some people might not be happy with them, but it's a lot of times it's the battles and the games within the game that are going to take them. And, you know, whether they lose 2-0 or they win 1-0, you know, I always go back. I remember when I interviewed Matty Cash at the World Cup and he just finished playing Mbappe. And yeah, they got beat 3-0, but they stuck. They had moments where they could stick to the game, and he was able to say, "Yeah, I can go out and use that from experience next time I played." And yeah, he beat me 4 times, but there was a couple of times he didn't, and the focus on that. So, you know, Jordan, when they get to play, you know, Messi now, they've already played Mbappe, and suddenly they play, you know, Peru and Chile. Well, we played the Dutch and the French, so it's not necessarily that daunting task as much.
I agree. What can you learn from a team that could burn you? And like, what do you learn when you play a team that's better than you? If you take it in boxing terms, I don't want to box against someone I could beat. I want to box against someone, if I put my gloves down for a second, they can knock you out, because that's going to make you better. I think that's what Canada needs. I think also when you're playing CONCACAF, that's a different story. You're playing teams that maybe you might dominate and have the ball more, but they're going to gain so much from playing these two top nations, and then just get you ready for when you play Argentina.
Eddie, so how do you approach a game like this? And did you play in a game that you can compare in terms of playing top competition and your approach towards playing in those games?
I think the comparable game for me would be probably after Colombia did well in the World Cup. That time we played against them in Red Bull Stadium, New Jersey. James Rodriguez played. We did well. We kept up well, and we got stung on a quick free kick, which he scored it from 30 yards in the top corner. But yeah, I think this is what you're going to be up against. That players that can change a game in a second, and I think that's sort of, it's 90 plus minutes of complete focus, and the players are going to have to all turn up.
There's going to be engagement. I think that's going to be demanded by Jesse Marsch and his staff right at the gate, KJ. What things, when it comes to the 11, the way that the team's going to be constructed, what questions do you have heading into this?
Well, I think there's almost a question over every position, in a sense that not necessarily in a negative way, you know, but goalkeepers is very competitive defensively. They need more depth there. Who will play? Will they play both games? They're coming off the European window, the European game season. Where do you really want to play players on both games? You know, what does Jesse Marsch do at the defensive midfield position, which is very important and not an easy thing to look into. And then does Alphonso Davies play further forward? Do you play Larin and David? So a lot of questions for me in terms of what he's going to do here. And the other thing I would say is that I think what has gone unnoticed a little bit is that it is a little bit more of a European heavy-based squad for lots of reasons. They're already there. Jason Russell-Rowe, by the way, should be in this team. He's just played a CONCACAF Champions League final in Mexico on a Saturday night, and wouldn't even be there yet. So there's a lot of reasons why you would pick European-based players, and I would expect changes before Copa America.
I think my big question, I'm curious to hear what Eddie has to say, but if you could take certain players out of national teams at certain times, I think this is one that would probably be playing at center back for this team right now. It's like, who's really playing and leading the ship? That's how I build my team. Straight through the spine. Who's a center back? Who are the voices when things get a bit rainy and the storm's coming? And I think there's big question marks of who's going to play in that back 3 or back 4 going into these next games.
Yeah, I think I would play myself there as well.
You start yourself?
Yeah, I would start myself there. Yeah. Thanks for saying that.
You still look like you could play.
Yeah, I feel good.
Go for it.
But, yeah, I think, like you say, the spine of the team, leaders. But at the same time, it opens up the door for someone to come and stake a claim. And really, you're looking for the next center back for the next 5-10 years, right? Or the next 2 center backs to come through. Who's going to come and stake a claim and really make that position their own?
That's why it's kind of funny, because we're looking at these 2 games, big tests, obviously Copa America playing Argentina, but all of this, KJ, you have to have your eyes on 2026 here.
Yeah.
And that's why when you look at the center back position, Bombito's played for Canada, has not played center back. Dufugerol, a young man, I've seen him play before. He looks like an intriguing talent, but young players forced into difficult situations potentially right away.
Yeah, absolutely. But, you know, they have been given the opportunity because, let's be honest, there is not an enormous amount of talent that Canada is producing those players at that level. It used to be that used to be their strength when they used to, you know, not that long ago. That was the area where we would, I'd say, we're competitive in that moment. But both those players that you mentioned will have to play. Not necessarily together, not necessarily both games, but they will be playing in these 2 games.
Really quickly, though, I mean, under John Herman, Canada had a whole lot of success, you know, really being strong in attack. Obviously, the players like Buchanan and Davies and Larin and David, but the Larin and David one's a funny one for me. It's like, can you still play both of these players at the same time when you're playing this heavyweight competition? Or do you need to change the way that you play a little bit? Like, that's clearly your strength in this team, but how all those pieces come together to put together the most complete puzzle possible?
It's a great question, Wheels. For me, do I want to sacrifice two killers, two guys I know that can score goals? I mean, David can press. I think Laren, maybe that's not his strong suit, but you need someone, a big frame and someone that can go and score goals. I think it just depends on what Jesse Marsch is willing to sacrifice. For me, it feels like a disservice having a Laren or David coming off the bench in any type of match. But then it's just a puzzle piece, right? Are you willing to sacrifice a midfielder? Are you willing to play with two? I know you're keen on a 4-4-2. Is that the system for Canada? It's just all these question marks that Jesse Marsch will have to answer soon enough.
We'll see. Yeah, I mean, look, if you're going to play Tejan Buchanan and or Alphonso Davies in attack, and then you're putting those two on the, you're
sacrificing somewhere.
Someone's got, Canadian fans will be reminded that against Croatia in the World Cup, they played Eustáquio and Atiba Hutchinson in a 2. And then they got outplayed, So I think they'll have to try and find a way of getting 3 in that midfield and figuring out the rest. And we'll have to wait and see, right, with where Davies plays. I think that's a big part of all of this.
It should be a really fun week. Let's not take games like this for granted. They don't come around very often. The Canadian women played at home. Their send-off series was in Montreal on Saturday, a 2-0 win, 2 second-half goals. Leon and Lacasse got them. Jordan, you were part of the broadcast. What was your big takeaway from that game as Bev Priestman tries to figure out the 18 players she will bring to the Olympics?
Evelyn Vienne just booked a ticket. Look, yeah, she came on second half. For me, she made that deep run. It's the first time Jessie Fleming played a ball in behind. Leon sorts out her feet there, scores for the 1-0. But I thought Vienne coming on, she just added a different element to the game. They were more linear. They could play a bit more north to south Canada and just stretch Mexico a little bit. Before this, everything was a bit in front of the box and shooting and not. But look at that pass as well for Lacasse. As soon as she sees Lacasse as sole defender, she takes her time here, but a solid finish for 2-0. But in a team where you don't really know who you want to play up top, or there are a lot of injuries or players that are interchanging, I think Vienne just showed that she's on that plane because she adds something different. I thought she was exceptional in this
Very interesting. I mean, that's going to be a big thing. Which players fit? I mean, the good news is another clean sheet for this team. Rose, Buchanan at the back, like this back line, Gilles, solid goalkeeper as well. Those are the ingredients that have taken them to the podium at the Olympics 3 straight times, including the gold medal win just 3 years ago. The send-off series moves to Toronto on Tuesday night. You can watch that game right here on One Soccer. We'll get to know David Edgar a little bit better next as we close out the show right here on Match Night.
Tony Bet.
At Tony Bet, get treated like a VIP. Bet on live games with odds on all sorts of sports. That's what you get when you bet with
Tony Bet.
Hey, so Mom's thing's coming up. Should we book flights?
Let's do it.
We could go a day early.
Or the later one?
With over 500 flights daily, we have a flight for that.
Gatorade, with electrolytes to help replenish what's lost in sweat, carbs to help fuel your working muscles, and fluids to help you hydrate. Scientifically formulated so you never stop competing.
I do this for my town, my time, my time. None of you people can tell me to stop.
Rehydrate, replenish, refuel. Gatorade.
Canadian soccer fans, we're different. We cheer on the Reds while cheering out our motherlands and each other's lands. Soccer is in our hearts. Our roots are on display. Not to divide, but to unite. Because to us, soccer's more than just a game. It's who we are. From coast to coast to coast, it connects us all. Cheers to us. Cheers to the game.
Degree, 72-hour non-stop protection. Antiperspirant with motion sense. Tested to the limit. Degree, keeps working when others stop.
This is the final score presented by TonyBet. Here's a reminder of how things finished up this weekend in the Canadian Premier League. Remember, you can win $100,000 or a trip to the 2024 CPL final by playing TonyBet's Canadian Premier League Predictor. Visit predictor.canpl.ca for more info. Wheeler, Wilson, KJ, and Eddie with you. If you are a regular viewer of the show, this is kind of a rotating segment. We ponder different things about our life, love, sometimes the game of football as well. I'm going to call this segment today David Edgar, Past, Present, and Future. You like it?
I love
we're
that.
Dig into the weeds when it comes to the man.
I thought you were going to go, David Edgar, this is your life.
Sure. But we're also looking ahead, so it's not like... And let's be honest, some of those a little bit kitschy. What is your most memorable game, or one of them, has to be your home debut for Newcastle back in 2007. You were playing the mighty Manchester United. You were playing left back opposite of who? This man right here, Cristiano Ronaldo. You scored in the game. You had an absolutely outstanding performance. Walk us through. Look at the young man, 2007, David Edgar. Look at that right there.
There's a lot of wax in that hair.
So what was this experience like? Walk us through this.
Wow, you're essentially just watching someone that all of my dreams from 6 years old come true in 90 minutes right here. Play at St. James's Park, score for Newcastle United. I was a fan from a young age, so it was, and my old man happened to be there at the time, so it made it even more special.
You're playing Ronaldo. Did you even realize that you're going to be up against him? Look at that challenge.
So the confidence builds right there.
How'd that feel? Wow.
You changed wings after that. but it was Ryan Giggs who came on the right.
Lovely.
Brilliant. What else stands out from you? Well, I mean, the goal, obviously.
Obviously, yeah. I mean, again, apart from that, I didn't really have a chance to venture forward very much. I was actually going to help James Milner there, who helped me for 90-plus minutes. So I just remember getting the ball. I was going to clip one into, I think, Obafemi Martins was at the back post, Antoine Sibierski, and I just thought, I'm never going to get this chance again. Took another touch, and some say there's a deflection. I don't see it, but...
No deflection at all, mate. You weren't supposed to play, though, were you, in this game?
No, actually. I think I was meant to be on the bench, and then Nicky Butt came in sick, so it was a bit of a surprise when I got to this
Probably
game.
helped you a little bit, no?
Yeah, I think so. I didn't want to sit on that anxiety for 24 hours.
Do
Yeah.
you know who was playing in that game? Van der Sar, Neville, Evra, Rio, Vidic, Scholes, Fletcher, Ronaldo, Giggs, Rooney, Saha was the 11.
Wow.
Michael Carrick came off the bench.
He was unbelievable, too. Yeah, it's not a bad little... I sent Gary Neville for a taxi early doors with a little chop, and then switch wings, and then... I marked Vidic at corners, which was a tough.
Wow.
You don't get players like that.
There's quite a few people who'd like to send Gary Neville for a taxi. So
for a few things.
Congrats.
What a week in your life! Like you made your debut Boxing Day against Bolton.
Yeah.
And then I think that was New Year's Day.
And then
I remember watching that game.
In between that was an FA Cup game against Birmingham City too.
Look at that.
I just remember watching. I was so happy for this young Canadian player. I was like, 2-2, United dropped points. So I was more disappointed.
2007, but the video makes it look like 1977.
That was 4K, right?
More than standard definition. You played under a number of notable managers: Keegan, Shearer, Deitch, Eddie Howe. Who stood out to you the most, and how has it affected your approach to coaching?
Well, I think the first two you mentioned in Keegan and Shearer were just boyhood dreams of mine. To have someone like Kevin Keegan and then have Alan Shearer choose me to start in a game for Newcastle United is something that I'll take to my grave with me. But the two latter ones you mentioned, in Sean Dyche and Eddie Howe, probably a profound impact on my career. In terms of winning promotion with Dyche, and I played probably half the games that season, but I've never seen a manager keep a group together, and you can see him do it. He's done it time after time since. But culture building, the group, the way you work hard, and then obviously Eddie Howe I played every single game for under him at Burnley, and it was total football. It was exciting. We would lose 4-3, but we know we were going to score.
Daichi's hilarious. Good manager as well. Like, it's a guy that you want to talk about the game and go out for a pint with.
Yeah, 100%.
Like,
Yeah, we did that with him too. So
Good managers, but good guys too.
Brilliant
Yes.
people, and there's a reason you're sat here talking about them 15 years later, because they are good people.
So you mentioned that, going out for a pint with a manager. I just don't see that happening very much now in terms of where the game has gone. Like, how has a locker room changed over the years since you started playing to where it is now?
Yeah, well, there's certainly not as many pints sank anymore. I don't think, that's for sure. It's a different environment, and somewhere I don't know. You probably touch on yourself. I might struggle to be in, only because of, I think, from the demanding world that I came from, and when I first entered that locker room in Newcastle, I was still cleaning boots. I was still cleaning some of their boots, right, and scrubbing them off and mopping our change room before we could leave and getting the bus home, right? So I'm not saying it's one way's better than the other. I'm just saying it's different. Players need to learn in their different ways.
What about on the pitch? Just the way the game has changed. Like, there's a lot of copycat syndrome. Teams playing very similar styles to one another. Has the game changed that much in terms of the way it's played on the field?
Yeah, I think everyone wants to play the same way. It has changed. I think there's a lot more information given to players now, whereas I think it was more, even then, I remember Kevin Keegan, it was just a flip chart. Flip chart, and you're starting or you're not starting, and it's, okay, you've got such and such role, and it might be one or two things, and it's, again, I don't know what's right and what's wrong, because I think the way the game's evolved and the tactics and what's gone into it now, there's no detail you can afford to miss out on. And
now you're at the stage of your life where you're having tangible impact on young Canadian players in the way that they play on the field. And what a place to do it with Bobby Smirniotis and Forge. You know, perennial winners. You guys are always in the mix, and you've developed some wonderful players. Congratulations, you're just in Northern Ireland, working on your UEFA badges.
Yep.
Obviously, moving forward, this is something that you aspire to do, to be a manager someday.
Yeah, I think it's... And it's not only recently. I think since I had those managers in Eddie and Daichi, I've known deep down there's been a yearning in the back of my mind that, okay, this is the next step. I love this game so much. And then to be able to come and bring it back here and to the country I love so much and has given me so much in terms of the national team stage, how can I help players now? How can I help the game grow here? And it's just, the stars aligned in terms of timing and being able to arrive at Forge, and then calling it quits on my playing career, moving on to such a brilliant coaching staff to learn from. And again, going on from there, it's something I've always wanted, and just ticking boxes as we go, and learning, and then just really making sure I'm ready when the time comes that there's a role available for myself.
It's such an all-encompassing job, such high demand to be a manager. Like, you really need to want it.
Yeah.
You have so much to give to that next generation. You have to be ready, just about ready now. Like, you're still a very young man overall there, but that's the way the managerial game has gone, younger 100%. And younger.
It is, and I see that, and it's that little bit of, am I getting a, but no, there's managers that get their chances for one reason or another, and I'm happy where I'm at, and as I say, if the time comes that I get a knock at the door and my opportunity comes, I have to be completely ready.
Brilliant. We're lucky to have you. Thanks for stepping in today. Good stuff.
Appreciate it. Had a great time.
Send me for a taxi as well. David Edgar joining us right here on Match Night. Remember, the Canadian Premier League and the CanPL Predictor. You can go online as well to take part in that. You can win $100,000 through the Canadian Premier League Predictor as well. Let's bring up the scores from this week in the Canadian Premier League. Match day 8 is in the books. It's Halifax Wanderers are looking at to next week. Halifax Wanderers in Pacific, Cavalry and Forge, Valor and Ottawa, and on Sunday, York United and Vancouver. And the scores that played out this week in the Canadian Premier League: Forge with a 3-0 victory, Pacific 1-1 with Cavalry, 2-2 Atlético Ottawa and Halifax as they remain unbeaten, as do Atlético Ottawa on the season thus far, and Valor a 2-0 victory over Vancouver. that's all the time we have this week. Remember, One Nation Tuesdays at 7 p.m. right here on One Soccer. Good stuff, Jordan. Good stuff, KJ. Thanks again to David Edgar joining us in studio. We'll do this all again next week. Who are we going to get as a special guest next week? Now we've set the bar exceptionally high.
Just centre backs. That's what we need.
Just centre backs.
Centre backs only, right?
They see the game, right?
You know?
They see it all.
You know, we've just been your fullbacks the whole time here, just for the two brains in the middle, just knocking it out every time.
Remember, next Sunday will be a super Sunday with Canada-France. We have Canadian Premier League action that day, and we'll recap it all right here on Match Night. Well, we were delayed significantly. We're 2 hours late on this show, but it was worth the wait for Valor fans. Jordy Swivel with a brace, and Valor, in their home opener of the season, come away with a 2-0 victory over Vancouver FC. On behalf of everyone here at One Soccer, I am Gareth Wheeler. This has been Match Night right here on One Soccer.